Welcome to HW Hockey.
What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 49 of season 6. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, joined as always by Jack Smith. How did I get Smith wrong right there, man? It's the off season. If you're watching us live on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed and set an alert for future shows. And if you're listening as a podcast, make sure you set an alert. Make sure you're listening to us and subscribed on Apple Podcast or Spotify to get notifications for future episodes the minute we upload them. Flyers fans, are you looking for a way to travel with fellow Flyers fans to watch your favorite team? Look no further than Phans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they have been the go-to for organizing unforgettable travel packages for Philadelphia sports fans. Why choose Phans of Philly? Jack, let's break it down. They've spent years building top-notch relationships with bars, hotels, teams, transportation companies, and more. Every trip is a learning experience, making each one better than the last. You can trust that their travel packages will exceed your expectations. Are they knowledgeable? You bet. They've scoped out the best hotels, explored the nightlife, and found the prime spots in arenas and stadiums. They know all the ins and outs to ensure you have a blast on your trip. And so, Jack, I noticed that we teased an announcement for Phans of Philly. They already came out with it. So if you guys haven't seen it, go to fansofphilly.com. You'll see who's going to accompany them to their trip to Salt Lake City. Head over, as I mentioned, fansofphilly.com. Head over to their Twitter. But just in case you don't, because we teased it last episode and we never got it out, Jack. And, you know, this was a big one for you. The Phans of Philly have announced that John LeClair will accompany the team on their Salt Lake City trip. So if you're a fan of the Philadelphia Flyers, if you want to go see the Flyers play in Salt Lake City with John LeClair, go to fansofphilly.com and book your travel today. Now, it is the end of August, the Thursday before Labor Day weekend. So we are, I don't want to say short for topics because we're not short for topics, but we have limited topics to get to that involve current events as far as the Flyers. And let's get to one of them right now, Jack. Let's start off with this. So the Flyers have signed a goalie.
Uh-oh.
And he's from Europe. I don't know. Is Sweden, Finland, is that part of Europe? I think it is, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So they get a goalie. Maybe not the one Flyers fans were hoping were going to come over to participate in camp or rookie camp, but a goalie nonetheless. Give me 1 second while I try to pronounce this kid's name here.
Do you have God bless you.
Yeah, it's one of those like Eetu Mäkiniemi. Let me get it because I feel
Let me try because I've been drinking. Let's take a look here. Eetu Mäkiniemi. I think that's how it's said. I think that's pretty close.
That sounded pretty good to me. Let's go with that because I don't think we're going to get a better pronunciation of that.
When you got two dots above a letter, just roll the dice. I mean, come
on. That sounded good to me. So this was a player that the Flyers were rumored to. There you go. Eetu Mäkiniemi. Yeah, let's go with that. You got it, Jack.
Mäkiniemi. He's like one of your Saigons or whatever, Paisan, whatever.
I finished one. So they bring him in, and that's fine. You know, they needed a body, but you know, the Phantoms are kind of short. The bridge for the Flyers is in terms of goaltending is no longer there if Kolosov doesn't come over, and it looks less and less likely like that's going to happen just based on this move alone.
Oh yeah, so, they're short men, and you know, they clearly have nothing but children. Well, I shouldn't say nothing, but now they have a man in the system. He may not be anything. It may be a tryout, but he nevertheless is a man, and he will play overseas in a country he's not from. So good for him.
Hey, opportunity, you know, somebody kind of kicks it away and somebody picks it right up. So maybe you know, I don't know anything about this guy. I'm not a good judge of goaltending. I'm not the guy you want to listen to when it comes to goaltending prospects. You know, as long as they stop the puck and their save percentage looks good, that's kind of that's all I look for. I don't care how pretty it is, right? You could be Dominik Hasek, who, you know, maybe didn't have the best form in the world, but arguably, Jack, I think he's your number one pick, the best goalie to ever play.
Pants down.
Yeah, most entertaining. That's for damn sure too. So we'll see what happens. You know, they got a warm body in camp, and that's all pretty much I know about that. Now let's get to the rookie games, Jack, because that's kind of the fun part, and obviously the tease, if you will, on our thumbnail. Fedotov and Michkov will participate in at least one of the rookie games the weekend of September 13th and 14th. I believe the 13th game, September 13th game is at 7 o'clock or 7:30, and the Saturday game is at 4 or 4:30. So, fan of the Flyers, you want to see Matvei Michkov for the first time in a Flyer uniform on the ice? Head out to the rookie game. Head out to Allentown for a weekend.
Or if you want to see Fedotov with equipment that fits, you can see him as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, a great GIF about that on Twitter. I believe it was by the Gets Pucks Deep handle. Just show Billy Madison in class with a bunch of first graders. Like, that's Fedotov with all those other rookies out there. Good stuff.
Yeah, because he's like 28 years old, something like that, right? That's pretty funny.
Exactly.
That's
awesome.
Pretty good. So I'm looking forward to that. You know, seeing Michkov in the orange and black for the first time, Jack.
I mean, I remember how packed like the Flyers skate zone was when like Moran was drafted. Yeah. Like, come on. I can only imagine what this is going to be like for Michkov. And don't expect a 5-goal outburst, but like, it's just, it'll be fun. Like, just seeing him in the Flyers uniform on the ice here, I cannot wait. I'm stoked. I'm absolutely stoked.
It's going to be fun, and I'm curious to see what the atmosphere is going to be like over there, because in the 3 or 4 times that I've been to, and I don't recall the name of the arena, but the 3 or 4 times that I've been out there to where the Phantoms play, one of them was to watch the Flyers rookies this time last year. It's, for lack of a better word, it's less than packed. You know, it's maybe half the seats are filled tops. I'm curious to see how it's going to look for the rookie games. You know, Michkov's going to be out there. I want to see him, you know, like everyone's going to be out there. I'm curious to see what the media section is going to look like. Is there going to be a seat? You know, am I going to have to stand in the media section? I don't know. Will Rangers media be out there covering?
They don't go to rookie things. Have you met a Rangers fan? You pretty much have to explain to them what their pipeline is, who some of their roster is outside of the big names, and then maybe they'll get on board and start cheering. Come on, man. You have friends that are Rangers fans. They don't know shit until you tell them. They're not going to show up to a rookie game. It's going to be all Flyers. It's going to be Michkov Mania take 1.
I'm hoping that's what it's going to be. I know they are cockroaches, but there were a few blue shirts last year. So I'm hoping we can weed them out this year with the Michkov excitement. Dave Harris, PPL Center. Yep, thank you. So yeah, and it's a really man, what's the word? It's really an endearing arena. I really like it, actually. I wish the Flyers arena was kind of like the PPL Center. Like, that's a place I would look forward to going to every weekend to watch a game or something. It's really kind of cool over there how it's set up. It's in a building. It's in a building. It's connected to a bigger. It's connected to a bigger building. There's a hotel right there. It's it's kind of cool how it's wrapped around. There's like no stores you could see all the stores and all the boxes. It's really pretty neat in there. I think if you guys have a chance to get up there and catch a game, you should definitely.
Is this the Pucks Deep that gave us the GIF I was referring to? Because that'd be great. Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. If there's any rookie game to go to, it's this one. So good stuff. Yeah.
And again, I'll be watching with caution. And I know everyone might be saying, Jim, shut the hell up. Like, it's a rookie game. Have fun. I'm telling you, man, the game I was at, and I think it was the second one of the 2, Rangers they were significantly bigger than the Flyers last year. And
do you think, can we check, did what's his name play in that game? That big guy who was fighting everybody? Was he in that game?
I don't recall. He probably was.
I watched both games, and you're right. It was very physical in that for a rookie game.
Yeah, it was. And like I think I mentioned last week, like borderline dirty, like checks well after the player was, out of it was past the puck, and some dirty stuff going on, guys getting whacked with sticks, elbows flying. So I hope that the Flyers don't go into these games, I hope they go in trying to make an impression for camp, I hope they don't go in and take these games lightly or anything like that.
And I hope the Rangers don't go in trying to do the best Jacob Trouba impression. So, we just have a nice rookie game, see what happens. But hey, you know what, though? At the same time, this is what the NHL is going to be like in some regards. So, you're not always going to have Delorier out there ready to defend you, too. So let's see what he's got. The elusive.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I really hope it's going to be fun to see what the atmosphere is going to be like. Is it going to be like a party atmosphere? I think I might stay overnight Friday and go to both games, Friday, Saturday.
That would be awesome.
I don't feel like driving home.
If there's ever a year to do it, Jim, it'd be this year.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. There's not a lot to do in the area around the PPL Center, but there is one little spot in an alley. Pretty cool restaurant. I think the weather will be warm enough still to hang out.
Oh, you scared me there for a minute, Jim.
Huh.
There's an alley. I know.
There's an alley in Allentown.
They're rolling. You
don't want to get caught in too many alleys out there, but this particular alley is pretty nice. Pretty cool.
I wish somebody would have told what's his name about that alley. He could have had some fun and not, been a little puss. But
Kolosov.
Yeah. Kolosov, thank you.
It doesn't not to bring down the mood, but I don't think he's coming.
Come on, man. It's September's in 2 days. He's not here. He's a straight up. And I can't blame the organization too much because it's such a ridiculous connotation. But what are they supposed to do? They're not going to come out and announce anything. They're going to keep trying. And it's just not going to end well. Some people are just not, they don't have the stuff to do it. You know what I mean? Maybe it would not surprise me if he stayed in Russia for 5 to 6 years. It's completely out of the Flyers organization, and this motherfucker pops up in the Penguins organization as a potential goalie or some shit. I can see that happening, But as far as coming over now, I don't think he's interested. I mean, most players who are this talented grow up with that dream. I'm going right into it again. You got to cut me off. He's just not made of that stuff. It just does not seem like he's made of that stuff, and we're going to have to just let it go at this point because even if he stays over, I don't see this getting any better. So let's just look towards what we have. There's a lot of things to be excited about, and maybe Ursan's the answer, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Let's talk about that a little bit. That's a nice little segue. How do you feel about the Flyers goaltending tandem heading into next season of Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov, Jack? Obviously they're unproven, but I'm curious, did Ursan show you enough last year to instill some belief that, hey, with proper usage, this can be a number one goalie in the NHL?
And that's the key thing there, proper usage. When outside of his first 2-3 games, with proper usage, he was really good. And it's he's the type of goalie that he needs to face a lot of shots, or he needs to have the defense suppress shots. And he's had shutouts in both styles of game. That tells me, first off, that just sounds good on its own. But a guy that could have a shootout and face 50 shots and still give you a shutout, which he pretty much did, pretty close to, but also had a game where he didn't face many shots, maybe didn't get into a groove or a rhythm, and still pulled off a shutout. All while Hart was still here, all while he was getting proper usage. Probably a defense better than we've had in quite a while, but still nothing to write home about. So I'm kind of I truly believe that this year for him, as long as nothing happens to Fedotov. And what irks me is I'm if something happens to Fedotov, Kolosov can get caught. Well, that's out the window too. So ultimately we'll see. But I do think with just proper usage, he'll be the guy that we saw between I'll say November and February, which was very good. And there's no reason to believe outside of the team just self-destructing in front of him, which I don't think that'll happen. I don't think we're built that way between Tortorella and the players we have. I have so much more confidence in a competent game I don't see any 8-3, 9-1 losses coming from this team. I think that they'll ultimately, even if they do lose, it'll be a hard-fought game. It's rare to look back last year and see where they've ultimately got blown out. And if they did, it was the very end of the season when everybody was out of gas, including Urson. So I do think behind a team and structure like that, and Michkov, by the way, I think we're going to see a lot more of the guy we saw between October and February. And I think I'm not saying he'll be a top 10 guy like Hart was in line to be, but I think he'll be an NHL caliber goalie. Fedotov, I have no idea. I have no clue. The guy was a 7th round draft pick. His story is much bigger than his talent, and his pads didn't even fit him last year. So I'm throwing that out the window. I give him credit for coming over in that situation. And when I look at when I look at Fedotov and Kolosov, it's like, look what this fucking guy went through. And he would do anything to get here. Went through hell, showed up, is playing in some guy's pads that retired 2 years ago. It's bigger than him. And it's still just like, I just want to get out there. Now, I get it. It's the NHL, not the AHL. But at the same time, he's 28 years old. And I appreciate that. And I feel like he has a drive and a want to make it work. Whether the talent's there, we're going to find out. But at the end of the day, he signed to a 2-year deal. Yes, it's expensive, but we all know why it was expensive. And you're just going to see what you have the guy make a decision. I don't view or put my hat on Fedotov being part of the future, honestly. He's already 28 years old. I mean, that's like Konechny age. And look how people felt about keeping Konechny around with where the team's timeline is. For me, it's all about Urson. And if Urson's not the answer, if we're able to see this year that he really isn't as good as we thought he was, which I will honestly be surprised, I'm not looking for Fedotov. I'm looking further down the pipeline at that point. And then I'm a little upset, or upset's too strong of a word. But disappointed, I guess, that they weren't more in on the Askarov, bidding, which ultimately was a pretty good deal for San Jose. And it's hard to look at that San Jose rebuild and compare it to ours and think of full rebuild, true rebuild, and what we're doing and kind of compare that. But that's another conversation for another day. But when I do look at certain things, the other guys are a little bit far away. And if they're not hits, you're in a little bit of trouble, because we're already looking for a true number 1D and a true number 1C. So as much as you could turn around and say, hey, a lot of this season a lot of the rebuild rather depends on Michkov being an absolute superstar, Drysdale being the guy you think you traded for. Urson's kind of in that role of goalie. Not saying he needs to be Hasek, but he needs to be pretty decent. And we have seen flashes. I'm not pinning it all on this year, but this is a big year because there's no excuses this year.
Yeah. I'm an Urson believer. He was in Calder contention for parts of last year, and he earned that. He earned the right to be in those conversations. Finished the year with a 2.82 goals against average and a sub 900 save percentage, which I think is maybe the bigger number there, 0.890. But he was really left out to dry in some of these games. Now, I'm remembering when, fans were kind of getting upset with Urson and, he needed to be replaced and this and that. And yeah, there were games where he was giving up some pretty tough goals. But for me, what I noticed was that the Flyers weren't really helping him out all that much in front of him during some of those games towards the end. He wasn't supposed to play in 51 games last year.
No, as a rookie? Holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see. I'm more interested to see what Fedotov does, to tell you the truth. If he looks like he did during the 3 games last year, Flyers are going to be in trouble in goal. I know we're talking about a lot of the positives, right? Like if Fedotov comes in and, plays well, Flyers should be okay in goal. If Urson struggles, Fedotov can pick up the slack. Fedotov struggles, Urson's good enough where he can jump right back in there as well. If Fedotov doesn't straighten out during his starts or his time in goal, the Flyers might be in trouble in goal again. Like that could happen just that quick. Fedotov put up good numbers in Russia. right? And I know he was here. He came over last year and was kind of thrust into action. Put up 2.37 goals against average and 914 save percentage in the KHL for Moscow last year. Flyers need that Fedotov. They just need a guy who can get in games, 30 plus games, I think. 35 plus. Get Urson in there for 45, 50 games. Get Fedotov in there, 30, 35. I'm also wondering if the salary that they gave Fedotov will force them. I'm wondering if that means they're going to play him as more of a split with Urson because he's making more money than Urson. Jack, what do you think about that?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's for two reasons. First off, doesn't he share an agent with Michkov?
I believe so.
So I thought it was my understanding that getting Michkov out 2 years early, paying Fedotov what he'd essentially be making in Russia, agent gets a chunk of that. Everything evens out in the ends, if you know what I mean. But on top of that, he is 28 years old. He's at a point where he's got to start making some money. It is what he'd been making in Russia. So it's like two birds, one stone. That's why it's only a 2-year deal. It's definitely an overpay for a guy that's never played in the NHL. But I think when you consider all the factors, that's why he got what he got. However, to your point, Jim, it's not going to be an 80-20 split. I think it's a 1A, 1B where he's clearly the B. And I think the Flyers hope that Urson makes himself clearly the A, if not the bona fide starter. And then they can make a decision on Fedotov based on his play after the season, which he's got 1 year. And there's plenty, and the salary cap's going up. What's he making? 3 and change, I believe. Mm-hmm. That's a trade. I'm not saying you're going to get a ton of return, but that's a tradable contract if you wanted to do it. And they're also in a rebuild. They could just eat it. It's not, they need a backup. There's nobody now in the AHL, so they might as well just keep him. Peterson be off the books. Sandstrom's gone. Kolosov's a bitch. So who's left at that point? So unless this, Eetu Mäkiniemi, whatnot, is worth a damn, what do you have? The other guys are too young. So it's fine. This is going to be our tandem. We're going to see what we have while we figure out the rest of the team as well. And if they do both falter, and while that could be a big, oh shit, we need to figure something out, most likely the team will finish pretty poorly, which will ultimately give you a good draft pick. So it's not like if they fail, the sky is falling either. So it's a shame. The goaltending position does seem to be cursed, but I'm definitely giving Urson. I'm still high on. I'm not. When I talk about when you break these things down, it's easy to. And I'm not saying you did this, but I'm saying you give his win-loss record, you give his goals against average, you give his save percentage, and you're like, wow, that's not that impressive. Well, when you actually break down the context of whether these stats came from, you understand what happened to Urson. So that I'm could look at those. It's kind of like Jamie Drysdale as well. He was only brought up as early as he was because of COVID, because of the Ducks and whatnot. I'm willing to give them time. Goaltending and defense take longer than forward for sure, especially goaltending. And they're voodoo to begin with. So just take this time, see what you have, see what you got, make a decision, and go from there. And then you still got guys in the pipeline. So I think that's why they were never in the Askarov discussions. I think they have plenty of guys they drafted. They have guys now that need to see.
They were in on Askarov.
Outside of kicking the tires, or legitimate?
It sounded pretty legitimate. It sounded legit. Yeah. I don't know what the offer was, but they were interested, and I guess they didn't want to beat the package that who ended up trading for him? San Jose,
who gave up what? Correct me. It was a first, a goalie prospect, and something else. I can't remember what that something else was.
Yeah, I guess
it was a pretty hefty
either
package.
That. Maybe Nashville liked that offer better. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't get him, but I know that they were asking. They were in on him. They
should have been. For him. When you're in a rebuild, you should be on everybody, even McGroarty. Yeah. Ultimately, but I think we'll ultimately see if this is a good or a bad thing. And most teams are, but I think they're awfully high in their own prospects and their own players.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. They did. It is tough to have drafted a lot of. They drafted a goalie in the second round, third round. They had Kolosov. We'll see what's going on with that. Ultimately, probably not going to be here, but it is what it is. They have Ursan, who was drafted. They have Fedotov, who they spent years trying to get over, and now they're paying him. So it's like you put a lot of time and energy and money into goalie and draft assets. So I can see them coming up against an offer and being asked to beat that offer and be like, it's just not worth it from what what we had done with our own prospect pool. And at the end of the day, Askarov may be great. He was a first round pick. What was he, 11th overall, one shy of a top 10 pick. He's killing it in the AHL. Same time, you have your Rick DiPietro's out there, number 1 overall pick, doesn't pan out. There's Spencer Knight. Where's he been? He was like the 10th pick or something. Like these things happen. So, a couple other guys I can name that went early second or first round that never even sniffed the NHL. Your Malcolm Sapons or a couple of guys. So goaltending is such a voodoo as it is to really maybe got to a point where whatever they had to give up to get him became uncomfortable. And I understand it at that point. It's like, look, it's goalie we're talking about here. So what is it really worth at that point, knowing what we already invested into the position?
Yeah, exactly that. They didn't have to trade for him. And I think that's the good thing. If they could get him on the deal that they want, great. But they didn't need to make the move for Askarov. I think I tweeted, it would have been fun to see what kind of move they would have made to get him and to have a high prospect goalie. But having said that, they have a plan in goal. It's not like they were going into this like we need to get this guy. They were going into they inquired from a position of strength. It's like, hey, we're good in goal. What's the price here? And this is what we're willing to do. And I think ultimately they didn't want to match it. I don't think they wanted to give up any of their 2025 ones for a goalie. As it's going to sound dumb to say, but goalie is not necessarily a position of need for the Flyers. You know what I mean? It's like
not from a prospect perspective, which was Askarov was.
Right. So it's like, what's the priority? If you're going to make a deal, if you're going to move 2025 ones, what's the priority position you want to move them for? Right. And in my opinion, I think you would agree as well. It's some order of center, number 1D. All right. And you could toss goalie in at 3 if those are the 3 choices. So, if we have to give up a 2025 one to bring in a goalie, we're going to have to say no to that. And because we're trying to hold out to fill one of these holes here. If a deal comes along, where, we can get a number 1 center, number 1D, we would rather save our picks for that. So sometimes the best deal is the one you don't make,
If the Askarov of defense or especially center became available, I absolutely expect them to be all over that, especially center. And they should be. If I'm not saying Zegras, say somebody else comes out and let's say the McGrourty of center, and he doesn't share an agent or he's not best friends with Cutter Gauthier, because they were never going after him because of that reason. It's not going to be good. But say it's like a center just pops up and he's just like, if I'm not going to play, I want out of here, whatever, then they need to be all over that shit. Not goalie. I'll live with it. And what's funny is, did you hear how they explained to Askarov what their plan was, even though they signed Saros to an 8-year deal, and he told the team that he was on board with the plan? And people are coming out like, yeah, well, what's he gonna say? Yeah, he's a 20-year-old kid, yeah, he's gonna shit all over him. He's like, no, he's like, yeah, it makes sense. Okay, yeah, I want out of here. It's not like Bob who actually played in the NHL. And then they brought in Briz. Yeah, this guy's like, I'm never going to play. You signed the guy 8 years. I'm going to be a backup for 4 years and sign a bullshit bridge until I'm 27 years old that makes some serious money. It was a good deal for both sides. It was what it was. I think the Preds just ultimately thought they'd be rebuilding at this point. And they've just surprised.
Yeah, last year kind of changed that up.
Their offseason last year surprised me, bringing in Ryan O'Reilly and players of that nature. And I think that year going into that offseason, I don't know if they made the playoffs and got bounced the year, not last year, the year before, but they were in the mix much longer than they should have been. So, hey, sometimes to play, changes shit. And maybe they didn't feel comfortable being a team like that, then they were just like, let's roll with what we got. So hey, it is what it is. Ultimately, they pulled the trigger. Both teams pulled the trigger, and we'll see down the road what happens with Briere. But ultimately, you see what happens, you see what you have, and you pull the trigger. I give credit to both teams for doing that. Yeah. It wasn't a bad return. It's not like Nashville took like a loss. Like, it was a good move on both sides.
Yeah. All right, let's move on a little bit here. So Snickers 10 chimed in a little bit earlier. Besides Matvei Michkov, what other rookie are you excited for that could possibly make the roster this year? And let's kind of go over some of the names that'll be in camp. I'm going to throw some names at you guys here. Let's start with. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to see any Bobby Brinks making the team this year, who kind of came into camp, forced his way onto the team. In my opinion, the roster is pretty much set, but players that I will be watching for, or I think we should be watching for, and I'll tell you why. Elliot Denoyer, I don't want to say time's running out because it's not, but he needs a bounce back season. Didn't have a great year last year. It needs to be seen. Are you an AHL guy, or can you crack the Flyers roster? Is there a place for you here? Some other guys here. So the Denver Barkey's not making the team this year. Another player I'll be watching in camp. Alex Bump's going to be a guy, if he's there. I think he's going to have a big year in the NCAA. He's a guy that I can't wait to watch this year. He finished last year very strong. Switched schools last summer. He had that whole coaching controversy. Switched schools, had a slow start, but finished extremely strong. Big kid, knows how to use his body, can score. Fun player. I don't think Tuomala is going to make how do you say his name? Tuomala?
You're right. Tuomala.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's an NHL player. I can't see him forcing his way into a winger spot. Like, the top 9 wingers, Jack, are cemented into the lineup for me.
I mean, you think about the team last year, the top 9 wingers we had, right? That's a tough lineup to crack.
Yeah.
Now Michkov enters the mix. Now, how do you crack? And you would need Brink to completely fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
And the only guy I can see doing it will be Tuomala just freaking out. Yeah. That's the only chance you have. And even then, they'd probably be like, I don't know. You know, like I don't see a forward make it unless there's a, knock on wood, like major injury or something like that in preseason. I don't see it. Like, Denver Barkey still looks like he's 13 years old. Like, he's got he may be a great future Scott Lawton kind of player, probably move to wing. We'll see. But he's nowhere near that at this point. Yeah. You brought up the Denoyer, could be a nice fireball type of player who could be a Tanner Lazinski if he stays healthy, and maybe we see what we have there. But that's probably about as best as you're going to get at a player like that. Yeah. Anybody else is too far away. Are we missing any true forward prospects? Like you mentioned, Alex Bump. There's Jadon. He was 2 years ago. Last year 2 years ago. I believe he was drafted like a 4th, 5th round guy. Like,
Massimo Rizzo will be in there. So Rizzo's a guy that
because he's a center, right?
I went all the way out to watch the Phantoms at the end of last year after Rizzo signed with the Phantoms or the Flyers, and he didn't play. But he's a guy that I'm excited to watch in camp and with the Phantoms this year. I want to see how he adjusts. His I think ultimate ceiling, like highest of highs, is third line center. But if I'm tempering expectations, I'm thinking he's just a top 6 AHL center. But like, he's a guy that I'm going to watch. Like, okay, can his game translate? Can he be an actual NHL center at some point? Because he had some pretty big years with Denver in the NCAA.
And guys like that, it's going to take some years. If they do reach that, it usually takes some time. So,
yeah, we'll see. He's an older kid. I think he's 20. I mean, let me just make sure. I think he's like Ronnie Adard age here, who's, we see as a young guy, but yeah, because he went into college kind of late, Sorry, it's not popping up on Dauber's thing here. Massimo Rizzo. Yeah, Rizzo's not exactly a young kid. He's 23 years old.
23. Okay.
So, I mean, he's
a
still
free
young,
asset, but yeah.
but he's like Morgan Frost age. You know what I mean? Who's been in the NHL for the last 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer on this is, Jim, between what forwards did they lose from last year?
Right. Cam Atkinson.
Oh,
right.
But you could have
yeah.
beat them out, you know,
Right.
and then in comes Michkov. So it's like, how are you going to, unless somebody gets hurt, God forbid, or
Right.
somebody forgets how to play hockey, there's not a spot for you. And that's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. It is what it is. You know,
Yep.
this is another reason why I'm hoping next off season there's some trades, there's some movement, something gets done to address a need or whatever, you know. But right now, I don't see it. Not on offense, but that's okay because the guys we do have on offense, especially at wing, they're pretty young. We have a lot of young talent already on defense between your Tippett's and your Forresters and your Bobby Brinks and guys of that nature. So like, I'm not a Michkov, like that's your top 6 right there of wingers. Like,
yep.
How worried could you be? Oh, Farabee's only 24 years old, by the way. You know, so I mean, that's another reason why I just don't see it happening. And if we had a legitimate center, they would be pushing, but we don't. Rizzo's a good name, but he was kind of like a free asset because we got him a Tony DeAngelo when you break it down. Yep. You know, so it is what it is.
Yep. Defensively, of course, I'm going to be watching for Emil Andre, who I love. I love to watch him. Short, stocky defenseman. And he plays big, but he is on the shorter side. He's a big kid, though, for his size. Uses his body well. Calm defenseman, puck mover. Can get the puck to goal. There was somebody in here who was saying he didn't have a great year with the Phantoms. Probably watched the Phantoms a lot more than I did, but the times that I saw Andre, Jack, this guy can play. And you know, everybody might hate this comp because Kimmo Timonen was such a great player for so long, but I see it in him. Like he has the poise, never gets rattled, can skate. You know, he doesn't throw his body around, but he can use it in ways where he keeps possession of the puck, which is so important for defense. Can man the point. He's just such a smart player. Maybe a season or two of the AHL under his belt. Maybe this is where he pushes to make. You know, maybe he beats out a Zamula or, he pushes to play over a Ristolainen. Who knows? But I would say the question is, who am I most excited for? I think by default, it's going to be Emil Andre for me.
And that's the short list because we know that I know people are going to ask about Bonk, and it seems the organization has a plan with Bonk, and that's to go back to juniors, kill it, maybe take another step on top of the big step he already took. And then, next year he's either here and he's in the AHL. Either one is fine. So he's out. Anybody else is too young. I personally don't think Adard or, oh my God, who's the other guy we thought we were going to lose him? Oh, Ginning. Yeah. He's here for somebody else to notice essentially, unless he freaks the hell out, which I don't see happening. I do hope certain defensemen are moved at some point, probably the trade deadline. We'll see how that works. But Andre is the big name, and if he were to have a rough camp, because he had a good camp last year, and he actually had a decent season in the AHL. Some people will tell you he had a good season. Other people will tell you he did not. From everything I've gathered, he had a decent season. He was I would say above average. But he didn't kill it, but he wasn't bad. Like he was average, if not above average, did what he did. It was his time with the Flyers, that cup of coffee with the Flyers, that he kind of was like, he's definitely not ready. And we were hoping we saw a little bit more there. But that happens to players sometimes when they first get their first dip in the NHL. We've seen that with a lot of players. I remember York being called up here and not being very impressive his first couple of goes, sent to the AHL, came back, and now look at him. So, like, that's not, especially when you're talking about defense. So, yeah, he's the guy that I'm looking for to come up this year, make some kind of an impact, show we can play, and ultimately, hopefully stick. And maybe force Briere's hand in a way like, hey, maybe I should eat some money and move on from Risto, especially if I can get out of this Johansson contract. Or maybe some other names get moved. I'm not sure who, but, something like that. So I'm hoping I want to see somebody on defense for Stanley Brière's hand. I don't think it's going to be Zamula. I don't think it's going to be Jennings. I don't think it's going to be Adder. I truly believe it's only Andre. And watch, towards the end of the year, you're going to see Hunter McDonald. I'm telling you, especially if they're out of the playoffs, you're going to see Hunter McDonald. They're all raving about him. I watched the broadcasters round table with Brian Boucher and Don Fedoruk and Tim Saunders and Jim Jackson. And his name came up like 4 times. And I'm like, Jesus, the GM's got these guys pushing him. So I'm sure you're going to see him at some point too, but I don't think he'll ultimately stick. But that's okay, because he's one of those guys. He's a little bit of a project. And in the long run, he's going to be on your third line pair, and he's going to be hopefully valuable. So I'll take that from the 6th round pick. How much they're shoving him down our throats is hysterical. But ultimately, I do think he'll be a piece of what hopefully is a championship puzzle one day.
All right, there you go. All right, let's move along here. We're 41 minutes in, so let's get to a couple of players here. Flyers players. We're kind of looking at. So there's a question here. Who do you want to see take the next step the most next season on this team, Jack?
All right, so there's an easy answer to this one, and you'll see why. I don't think he'll do it this year, but I do want to see him take that step, and the answer is Jamie Drysdale for so many reasons. Ultimately, and I've heard this out there, and it's pretty obvious, if he can just stay healthy this year and be decent, that would be great. But God forbid he were to stay healthy and take a step. That would be huge towards not only the trade and how bad that looks right now. Not that it looks terrible, but like if he doesn't pan out, it will. And that,
well, Gauthier still has to cut it. He still has to pan out too.
Are you going to say he's supposed to cut it?
Yeah.
You're right. But, the Flyers' luck, he's going to score. He's going to be in Calder contention. That's just the way it is. Hockey gods do not exist. They don't.
Yeah, you got Michkov at 7.
Well,
one of them, at least one of them does.
He scores 70 points this year. I'll agree with you.
The Russian hockey god. Actually, no, the Flyers.
I mean, just the way that, come on, the shit that Crosby did and early in his career for the things to pan out the way it did. It's like, come on, the hockey gods aren't real. So if he were to just stay healthy, but God forbid, he were to take that step forward, make the power play better, ultimately be that defenseman that was drafted 6th overall, and shows just signs that he could over time, because defense takes a while, develop into that player, that would be massive for this team.
Yeah.
He's not exactly your Pietrangelo style defenseman, but he could be a damn good defenseman who could really, with Michkov, get your power play rocking and rolling. And this team, I'm not saying that was the team that's going to eventually win the cup, but they were a game out of making the playoffs. Improving the power play is monumental. You and I argued in the past a little bit about how this team should be better on the power play. And I'm like, just based on talent, they should be. Based on Michkov, they should be even better. But if they get Drysdale going, that's what could propel them into the top 15, hopefully the top 10. That is massive for this team to have a player of his caliber pan out.
Yeah.
And seeing any kind of, really just being healthy, but any kind of step forward would be just amazing. And it's a full season. It's a full off season. And I'll give him this whole year to just, figure out how to stay healthy in a league and go into next year, because he's that important. But God forbid, if he were to take that step this year or something of a step, that would be really important to this team. I have other players, but I'll go to you next.
Yeah. So I'll just say this. I 100% believe in Jamie Drysdale's talents. The games that I watched him play with Anaheim, I'm not sure. We got a little taste of that, but he didn't look like himself, I would say. You remember when he got sick?
Yeah.
When he came back, he never really looked the same after he got sick.
I feel like he was injured like most of the time. He was injured to start the season. He had rough contract negotiations.
But he looked good. He looked good with Anaheim, though. This is what I'm So I don't know
his
when.
first year, yes.
Well, even last year, because I don't know when the injury occurred.
I don't think he played a whole lot for Anaheim last year. He was like
he looked
12
good.
games.
So the games that he did, I don't know how many games, but in the games he did, he was flying. Like and somebody on here laughed at me when I said this. Jamie Drysdale is a dynamic hockey player when he's good.
Sorry, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know why somebody would laugh at that. It's literally in his draft profile.
They haven't watched him.
He's a dynamic. That's why. So we play fantasy hockey. I took him and Sandstrom back to back in that because I just wanted defensemen. They're both fucking dynamic. It's in their draft profile. That's who they are. And yes, he is an elite skater. One thing that this team just has lacked. Like he can skate for days. So he is 100% dynamic. I will fight that to the end of time. Why somebody laughed at you, I'll never understand that. I remember that. I remember arguing it. I was like, I understand the guy's been injured. I understand the guy had a rough time in Anaheim when he was brought into the league at 18 years old because of COVID. There was no juniors then. The juniors was canceled. So the Ducks made a decision, instead of having him sit around doing nothing, to put him in the AHL. He was a 6th overall pick. Who is that guy the Flyers drafted? We traded for Pronger, the defenseman. I'm trying to remember his name.
Spiza?
You know what I'm talking about?
Not Spiza.
Spiza. Yeah, Lucas Spiza. Yeah. So if Spiza can make the NHL out of camp, Jamie Drysdale can make the Ducks out of camp, okay? Is it perfect? Is it great for his development? Maybe not. It was a global pandemic where juniors was canceled. So I don't even think that was the Ducks' decision to bring him immediately into the NHL. They did it because they didn't want him playing for some beer league instead of developing. Now, did it ultimately hurt them? Maybe. I don't know. I think his body wasn't built to sustain an NHL season, but the talent was there. The talent is there. You don't go that high in the draft for nothing. So, and mainly he did because he is absolutely, without a doubt, a dynamic player. So that's not even up for debate. So seeing that shit drives me mad too. So I'm sorry. I went on a little tirade there.
Well, I think his floor is a 50-point guy.
I think his floor is Ghost, to be honest with you. I think his floor is something of the Ghost variety.
So like which Ghost? Like the 60-point Ghost or like the 30?
No, Ghost now. The Ghost now. The Ghost that will go to you'll see him in a new team almost every year and traded at the trade deadline. I think his ceiling, is like Carlson. Maybe not crazy, but like in the vicinity. You know what I'm saying?
I think he can give you 10 to 15 goals a year, 40 to 45 assists.
So 60
year
something
in and year
points.
Out.
Like
if
you teeter with Carlson had over 100. I get that.
That's a ceiling for me though. I'm not going. I don't think he's a 70-point guy or anything like that. 15 goals, 15 goals, 40, 45 assists.
If he hit his ceiling and the way the NHL is trending, 70 is not that crazy. But that's his ceiling.
Yeah.
What guys hit their ceiling, especially when their growth is stunted this badly? So I don't see that happening. But even if he was just the 60-point guy,
that's pretty damn good.
Exactly. 18 goals.
Flyers fans were jerking their dicks off for however many years Ghost was here because he had one 60-point season. This guy's going to do it. This guy can do it year in and year out. Just has to get healthy.
And he's not inadequate on defense like Ghost was. Like he knows how to play defense. He's not the greatest, but he can
skate. Ghost couldn't skate either, man. Everyone's going crazy for Ghost. The Ghost was good for a season.
And I never saw Drysdale pass it in front of his own net to the other team like Ghost did on almost a nightly basis. People tend to forget about. Like he's not making those cataclysmic mistakes in his own zone. So I understand why they chose him over Marco Rossi when it came to trading Cutter. I get it. Not only is it defense, but it's dynamic defense. And the fact that people argue you on that is just baffling to me. It's not true.
It's interesting.
It's not true.
But I agree with you. He's a guy that, I think he's probably everybody's guy, because he's going to be such an important, integral piece. Like Tortorella even said like Drysdale can be a positionless player. The way they're going to use him. They're going to use him as a rover, right? And that's how he used Dan Boyle. And
And it was Torts' favorite player of all time.
Remember
Dan
how much
Boyle.
fun he was to watch, right? Like
With Tampa,
like
yeah.
Drysdale's one of those
Jose.
guys. Like you just tell him, hey, go out and play.
Yeah,
do your thing.
Yeah.
And when you have guys like that, those guys are so much fun to watch.
But when you say do your thing, if you're Torts and you say do your thing to a player, how much trust do you have in that player? Yep. Like, especially if coming from Torts, like that's second to none. And I felt that way about, like, I'm not saying he's the same player because they're completely different, but as far as confidence in a player, Pronger, Tiemann, guys of that nature, like I never doubted like decisions they made. You know, even Desjardins now and then I'd be like, I don't know if he should have done that. But I look at this trade for Cutter for Drysdale in the second. And to me, and I obviously know we got this, based on where we're at as a franchise, I look back to when the Flyers traded Recchi for Desjardins, LeClair, and Marcel Dion. Marcel Dion. Listen to me. Whoever the hell that other prospect was, I can't remember his name. I had a name like that, who didn't pan out at all. And this trade is almost as important as that trade. They didn't know what they were getting in Desjardins and LeClair. Desjardins was not a throw-in, but LeClair kind of was. And the guy they wanted in that deal, that guy whose name escapes me, didn't pan out. But that trade helped change the franchise because they had LeClair. They felt comfortable in trading Recchi. They added a top-scoring winger to go with their top center and the number one D-man. In this trade, we have some of those other pieces already because you have Forrester, you have Tippett, you have something Brink, you have Farabee, and you have Michkov. But to get that number one defenseman back for us, Recchi still leads the league, or still leads the Flyers in all-time points that season, and they traded him. And you traded Cutter, who the guy looks like he can't friggin' miss from wherever he scores from, and that's part of the pain. Like, he's just ridiculous. And you traded a player of that nature because you had to, not because you wanted to, because you had to. So the idea of Drysdale working out the way that trade in the 90s worked out for the Flyers, I just feel like there's some similar grounds for rebuilding these teams. Our team currently has more than that team did outside of and you can make a parallel with Lindros and Michkov. Obviously, I think Lindros was the more generational talent, but we have more now than that team did then, and there was no salary cap then, there is now. So I do think this trade is monumental to this team's success. I wouldn't say they're hanging their hat on it, but it's huge. Yeah. I don't know how else if he completely bottoms out and it's no good at all, and he's a ghost, I guess, at best. Like, fuck. Like, they're gonna have to Brière's gonna have to get awfully fucking creative.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So my guy that I think I'm not so much looking forward to watching his progress next year as I am in Jamie Drysdale, but a guy who I thought was an easy pick for a breakout candidate last year was Joel Farabee. He's going to be my guy I want to see improve this year because unless he was injured and they didn't come out and say anything, he disappeared the last at least 2 months of the season. And I know, like, you bring up Farabee and there'll be one guy always out there who, he had career highs in goals, assists, points, yada, yada. Yeah, but that could have been a lot better if he was around the last 2 months. And you have Dave chiming in here. I'm tired of Farabee, and that's kind of how I felt towards the end of last year. To me, I thought he was a perfect trade candidate during the summer. He's on a good contract. He's, in my opinion, currently on the third line as a winger on a stacked. The Flyers are stacked at wing. Dave chiming in, doesn't move the needle at all. Yeah, I mean, if you can remember early in the year, he was teaming up with guys like Konechny, Lawton for some pretty nice goals. Supposed to be able to get it done on the defensive end, which is fine. But, had some run-ins with Torts last season. I believe he was benched during a game. And maybe, I don't know if he missed games. I don't remember at this point. But he's a guy I want to see play a full season now. I know he was hurt 2 seasons back. He had off-season neck surgery, something like that. It was an accomplishment just to play all 82 games. Last year he comes in, like I said, for me, he was an easy pick for a breakout candidate. Career highs in points. But now I want to see him do that for a full 82 games. right? When we think about the Flyers of the past, Jack, for me, the first thing that comes up is inconsistent, right? So we're seeing if you want to be a good hockey club, and I think a lot of the players on the team last year were consistent. If you want to be a very good hockey club and a very good player in the NHL, consistency is key. And for Farabee, I want to see him play the entire year. I think he can have an even better season than he did last year. I think he left a lot of meat on the bone, as far as point totals go. So it's great that he had a career high. I thought it could be even better. I wasn't satisfied with his season last year because he left such a sour taste in my mouth. He completely faded down the stretch, and they needed him. They missed the playoffs, not all because of Farabee, but they missed it by one game. And if he just would have if he would have showed up on the stat sheet just maybe a little bit more than he did, who knows? Who knows? Maybe they sneak in. Again, it's not all on Farabee, but he disappeared for sure.
So that's a great one, especially because of all the talk we had in the offseason. Ultimately, he's still here. Crazy stats on Farabee, real quick. So we talk about how young some of these other players are. He was drafted 1 year before Bobby Brink, who to us, obviously Farabee was the 14th pick overall, where Brink was a early second rounder, and I think York was around the same pick, maybe. Yeah, I think they were both 14 now I think about it. And we think of them as such younger players. Farabee has played 334 NHL games. You know how old he is?
24, 23?
He is 24 years old. He has 334 games under his belt, 82 goals, 100 assists for 182 points. I mean, for his age, those aren't some bad stats. Now, another thing to keep in mind, his rookie year, he technically made the team out of camp because of them going over to wherever the hell they played in, like, not Russia, but like somewhere in the Czech Republic or something like that. He couldn't make the roster. Then he did make the roster and he got sick and he played 52 games. He didn't play a full season. 2020 to 2021, that was the lockout year. Not the lockout. That was the COVID year. It started in January. It was half a season. They didn't play a whole lot. 2021, 2022, that was their year. They're going for it. They're going to be good. They had all these other players. Well, ultimately, that didn't happen. He played his most games that season at 63. Well, 2 years ago and last year, he actually played a full 82 in both seasons, finally. And he did 15 goals and 24 assists 2 years ago for 41 points. I'm sorry, 39 points with a -1. And last year, 82 games, 22 goals, 28 assists, 50 points, -13, which is also a career high. He's 24 years old. He's got a lot of games under his belt. His last 2 seasons, only last season meant anything. Do you think it's possible that maybe that he got tired towards the end of the year? I mean,
it is possible. Maybe the torch stuff kind of messed with them too. But,
I can almost take his rookie year. He wasn't prepared. He didn't play a full season. He did what any rookie would do. Also, he's probably 18 years old when he played that season. You had the COVID year. It was a half a season for everybody.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of that matters anymore. To tell you the truth, like,
think how young he is, though. He was playing.
Dude, he should have been the way he was playing last year. There's no reason why he couldn't have been a 30-30 guy easily.
I think his body got worn down. If I'm going to make an excuse for Farabee, you know me, I was all on the move him for something. But we're past that, so I'm like, we have him. He's going to be here this year.
This is a professional athlete that's in the prime of his playing career.
So I think the prime would actually start like now.
No, but like he's 23 years old. Like, we're talking about his body breaking down. This is a professional athlete.
Not breaking down. No.
But I don't think it's what I mean? Though, like, dude, this is a 23, 24-year-old kid, and we're talking about him being gassed.
I think he got beat up a little bit. Because, look, he didn't miss a game. And he didn't miss a game the previous year. But there was no expectations the previous year. Tortorella's first year was a dumpster fire. We all knew why.
Excuses to me, Jack. Like, it just does.
Well, we could look at it that way. We could. Which is why we all wanted him traded. Which is why there's comments like, I'm tired. I'm of him. And I'm not against that. And when he played, when he didn't get surgery after this year or something, I was a little concerned. But when I break down his trek to the NHL, he didn't play in juniors. He didn't play in the AHL. He pretty much went straight to the NHL. Well, we're not
that
playing. That
cracks me up right there.
I know. Yeah, we'll play 2 games in the NHL. We're done. So I'm just trying. If I had to make a case for Farabee and why he started off last year so well, which he did. You don't hit career highs and have such horrible last 2 months of your season unless your first 6 months or whatever the hell the number is are that good. And I'm thinking maybe he just wasn't used to a full 82 game season at age 23, which a lot of the prospects we talk about, they're not even in the NHL at that age. They're not even there. How old's Bobby Brink this past season? He was 23 years old. How did he do? He pitter-pattered towards the end of the year. And nobody seems to freak out about that.
I freaked out.
About Bobby Brink?
Yeah.
Well, you're a nutcase.
Do you remember the Montreal game where he basically just gave up on the play?
That's not a
body
breaking down. That's a quitting. That's a quitting play, and I'll give you that one. That's quitting. I hate that shit too. That would drive me nuts as well.
But
as an overall number.
Yeah, but how many other 23, 24-year-olds does that not happen to?
Name them. I bet you're going to name studs. How many guys were even in the NHL? If you took the grand average of guys drafted, how many 23-year-olds are playing 82 games in the NHL? What number is that?
Right, and producing the whole, this is what I mean.
And he was playing on the top line on the power play time. It's not like he was on the third line doing his thing. He was a guy. He was around. He was playing really, and then he hit a wall.
Because
he's not used to this kind of workload.
But he played 82 the year before.
There was no expectations. That team was a dumpster fire.
So so what is it though? The expectations that got him, or do you know what I mean?
I think it was. I think he played, and you could call it excuse. I'm not going to dismiss that. But if these guys are human, and it's not like he had a slow burn. He made the team at 18 years old.
I'm not asking for too much of him. I'm just asking him to play well for 82 games.
He gave you career highs.
He's getting paid 82 games, though.
He gave you, but the point is, it's not like he had a bad season. He had career highs across the board. And the last 2 months of the season, he didn't show up at all. So it's not.
So he had career highs through the first 3/4 of the season. And
that tells me he hit a wall. Why did he hit a wall?
How do you hit a wall at 23, 24 years old?
That's the question. Your body and you.
Claude Giroux is still playing at a high level at 36 years old. It's supposed to be the opposite.
That's different. No,
it's supposed to be as you get older, you hit the wall.
Not necessarily true. Not necessarily true. If you're a banger, maybe power forwards, I'm sure that they start to slow down. Giroux wasn't that guy. All right. He first off, Drew's a borderline Hall of Famer as well. Dude, I think you answered your own question. Farabee had played damn good and then hit the wall because he's not used to playing a full 82 game season at a high level. It's one thing to play 82 game season. It's another thing to do it at a high level. He gave you career highs and then hit a fucking wall. That right there tells me his body was not prepared for the full 82 game season. That it answers the question within itself.
That doesn't make me feel better about it. That makes me feel worse.
Well, put it this way. What if he trains or he gets used to it and he does get used to playing 82, and instead of giving you, how long is the season? 6 months, 7, 8 months?
It seems like forever sometimes. But
when you're a Flyers fan, it's all forever. October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 5, 6, 7 months. He gave you 5 months last year and he gave you career highs. What if he gives you 7 months this year? And instead of scoring,
that's what I want. That's what I'm dying for. 7 months.
24 years old. So instead of scoring 22 goals, he scores 28 goals. Instead of 28 assists, he gives you 36 assists. Now he's in the almost 60-point range, if not 60-point range.
That's what he should be.
He could. He's only 24 years. He'll be 24 years old going into the season.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's young. Bobby Brink. He didn't even make the roster until he was 23 years old. Yes, I understand. He was a late second rounder. Or early second rounder. I get it. I'm just saying, like, some of these, you think Farabee, because he's been on the team for 5 seasons, you're like, oh, he's a veteran, which he is, but he's like a true veteran. He's really not. His first 2 seasons were like bullshit seasons. 52 games, 55 games. Fucking Ersan played 52 games last year. It's a fucking goalie. Like, and I'm just saying, like, he didn't play 82. 63 after that. Then he hit 82 in a season nobody fucking cared about. And a season where the team was good and he was part of the reason for the first 5 months of the season. And then, yes, him falling off was a direct correlation, among other things, as to why the team fell off as well. Would I have traded him for something if the price was right? Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying save the guy. He's going to be the next great left wing in the NHL. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying maybe there is something to that. Maybe there's a reason they kept him around. Maybe there's more to his game than we realize, and he's getting used to playing a true hard 82 games where you're in it to the very last game of the season.
I guess, man. When the going got tough, he disappeared, and he
23 years old.
He even said it. He said it.
He got pissy about it too.
I couldn't believe that he said it, but
he got pissy about it too. You remember that? I know exactly what interview you're talking about. He got a little pissy about how his usage and things of that nature, and kind of backpedaled after he realized he went out. And Torts isn't going to take that shit. And good. I'm not saying we should give him the excuse. I'm not saying we should take that shit.
No. So he made a point to say the season got harder.
Yeah, they were in it. They weren't his first 82 game season. They were out of it by fucking January.
What? The season got harder, and
they were in this.
My point is, he didn't step up though. He stepped.
But they
down.
lost. But they lost. You're right. You're absolutely right. But that's something a young player would do.
But he's making $5 million to not do that.
Well, are you going to not sign that deal? I'd sign that deal. I don't care how good I am. I'm going to sign that deal. If they offer me that shit, I'm going to sign it. Come on. He's making he signed that deal like 21 years old because he had been in the NHL producing at some level for a while. They believed in his
but
growth.
So the argument that you're using right now, whenever we talked about Andy McDonald, I didn't go, he signed the contract.
Andy McDonald was like 28 years old when he signed that deal.
That's the argument that you just used, though. But that's the argument that you just used.
Andy McDonald was a proven
I would
veteran.
sign that contract. Okay, so what does that mean? Everything that he does is fine after that?
And was that good for Andy McDonald? He was a proven veteran.
That was great for Andy McDonald, yeah.
He was a proven veteran.
But you're not going to sign that deal?
I think any player would sign any long-term extensive deal. Farabee, it was a deal like a Konechny deal. Like they're overpaying him, hoping he grows into the deal. But it doesn't happen overnight. We know that growth is not linear. It's not a straight line. It's not a straight upward line. There's peaks and valleys. We know that. Okay, that's a fact. Maybe he had a valley this year because all I'm saying is
he showed what he could do. He showed what he could be. For 5 months.
I'll ask you this question, all right?
And I want to see it for 7. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Well, here's my question. You're asking what you want from the guy, but I'm asking you why in 5 out of the 7 months did he give you what you wanted to see? And the last 2, he couldn't. Why?
I don't know.
Why
did that happen? We're both on here trying to figure that out.
I'm giving you, at least I'm giving you what I think happened.
I think that's total BS though. That's why.
Well, what's the other answer? He just said, "Fuck it, I'm done
if
with
his body, if his body hit a wall, like that's a problem for me.
He's still young. He's a young guy.
And to me, that's even more BS because it should be as you get older, your body hits a wall. When you're young,
I think it's apples and oranges.
So he's in his prime age wise. Like
I think prime.
Think about when you were 22 and 23.
I think prime is more like for an NHLer.
Prime is when you're your best 29. Years. But yes. I'm talking fitness wise.
I don't think he's in his best years.
I'm talking fitness wise though.
Yeah, but it's not just like running miles. It's being beat up at the NHL level. You don't play one season and you can take hits and deal with injuries throughout the year.
But he's played 5 NHL seasons
since he was 18. I mean, Coots didn't become a true perennial Selke candidate until he was like 27 years old. Yeah. Like it took time. He was a candidate. He just didn't win it until later. But he was getting 1 or 2 votes here. He was now like a top 3 guy until he was older. And Farabee had 2 shortened seasons. He started because Coots started when he was 18 as well. And Coots is better than Farabee. I'm not gonna say that. But like, he showed you things you liked, but it took time for him to develop other part of his game. And I'm just saying, Farabee is a young guy. He's only 24 years old. He's got a lot of games under his belt. And I'm the first guy to tell you.
And maybe last year he finally hit the wall at 23 years old. Crazy.
So my thing is, I'm going to ask you this, right? Why did he hit the wall? What's the point?
I have no idea.
Are you saying
that's
he's
what
incapable?
I'm wondering? What the hell happened?
Are you saying he's incapable of playing an 82-game season at a high level?
To me, that's what it sounds like you're saying.
No, I'm saying he's young. I'm saying you got to figure it out.
You're saying since he's only played 50 games since he's been in the NHL each season that he can't play 82? I'm not supposed to expect him to play at a high level for 82 games?
I'm saying he's human. And his first 82-game season, the team was a dumpster fire. It didn't matter. He overlooked it. Nobody was looking at anything. They were in a playoff race to literally the last game of the season. And when they could have used him
for that, they could have used him.
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing that at all. When the going got tough, he just didn't have it. He was pushing. I don't think in his first 82-game season he gave it everything he had every single game. I'm saying every game he played this year, he gave it everything he had until he had nothing left. And I think when you're a young guy, they literally tell you have to build your body into an NHLer. When I was 22, 23 years old, I was not a man. I was a kid. Could I run for miles? Sure. But I did not have a man body. I could not hold up at the level I could today. If I met a 22-year-old in the street, I'm a fat fuck right now. Okay, if I met a 25-year-old in the street right now who's talking shit, I guarantee you I could beat his ass. Now, if he managed to wrestle me for 20 minutes, I'd be gasping for air. But I would punch harder, tackle harder, everything harder. Because I'm in a man's body. It'd be a lot harder to hurt me. Okay? I could drink a 6-pack and do that. Now, that doesn't mean that I could go for days. But like, when you're that young, you're still a kid. You still have a child's body, a teenager's body, I should say. You have a teenager's body. You're skinny, especially those hockey players. They're sticks and bones. Look at Sandheim. I remember seeing Sandheim when he was like signed that deal, and he was like, well, how old was he? I don't know. He looked like a high schooler. And
I hear you, but I just
look. I'm not saying it's the answer, but I'm saying if I'm going to look at why somebody played, we'll say 56 games and then hit a wall, I think that's probably why, unless you can tell me a better reason.
I don't know. Maybe like now we're left to wonder. Maybe he doesn't have that.
Hey, I offered an option.
Maybe he doesn't. This is the thing, right? Like, okay, either hit the wall or maybe he doesn't have that extra gear. Maybe he is just a third line winger.
That's fair. Maybe, but see, even
like when he says it himself, the season got harder as the games got, got more important.
Right.
Okay. Well, we noticed that you stopped showing up on the score sheet. So what are you trying to say here?
All right. At the same time, it's his first season being a player that they actually relied upon in an important season, in a season where every single game, the entire season mattered. Before that was his rookie season. That was the only season he had where every single game mattered.
But that didn't stop guys from Forster from scoring, Tippett from scoring.
They weren't. But look at. I think those guys have more skill. I think they have more offensive skill than Farabee. I think Farabee's more of an all-around player. And we'll see. What if Forster and Tippett come back next year and they're not as strong as you thought? You know what I mean? What if Farabee started off the season in the top 6, the top 3? Like, he was playing those hard minutes. Over time, when he started to diminish, those other guys stepped up. Forster did not start off the season well. He took a while to get going. Tippett missed loads of time. Neither of those players played 82 games. Farabee did. If Farabee missed, 10 to 15 games, maybe his end of the season is a little bit stronger. All I'm saying is I was at the top of the line, the front of the line. Trade Farabee for something. Make him part of a deal for something else. I was on that train. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were saying him and maybe another piece for Zegras, you wanted that. And I'm like, it's going to take more. I'm the one saying it's going to take more than that to get Zegras. It's going to take more.
Look,
but
I'm not sitting here saying Farabee's not a good player. I think he is a good player, and I want to see it for 7 months instead of 5.
But all I can say is growth in a player. It's not linear. Like, you have to figure things out in your own way. And I don't think everybody's just built to play in the NHL. I think it's going to take, look at Drysdale, for Christ's sake. Sometimes it's not just skill. Like, you have to develop your body, get stronger, stay stronger. And he did play 82 games. Good. He didn't get injured. Good. Very good. That doesn't mean he wasn't fucking worn down, and I did say when the season ended, I wanted to hear he had some kind of surgery on something, because why else was he out for the last 2 months, just not in his repertoire? Well, that didn't happen. So now I'm looking for excuses, which it is what it is. Why did he fall off? This is the best I could. This is the best. This is the best I could come up with. He was 23 years old. He had really never played a full 82 that mattered, because he had his rookie year and a COVID year.
It sounds like we're using the he's a kid thing with Farabee, but then like when a guy like Kolosov doesn't want to come over, it's a bad thing if you're a kid.
Those are two completely different situations. He's being all he's got to do is show up. I'm just asking Kolosov to walk through the front door. That's all I'm asking. I just show up. What's the difference? That's totally different.
Oh man, I don't know, man. I just
show up. Just pack your bag and get on the plane.
I guess for me, that's like the least that I expect is to show up and play all 82.
I bet you and I almost wish we could. If you have a true NHL vet, I'm sure that it takes some time. I'm sure you have to. Your body has to adapt. I'm sure to take the punishment night in and night out. I can see, great, he didn't get injured, but I can see him not doing some of the things we normally do, because he was just tired, just beat up. Tired's one thing. I don't think he was like gasping for air or anything. I think he was beat up. I do. I just didn't think he had it in him. And maybe, and this is Vegas, maybe we'll find out. But for now, ultimately, because we have to, because we didn't trade him, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
And that's why he's
24 years old. I mean, that's pretty young, if you ask me. Pretty young.
That's why he's the guy. He's after Drysdale. Farabee's going to be the guy I'm looking to have another career season. He's going to have to.
For 7 months.
I think he has the potential in him to better his goals, assists, point mark. I think I really do believe, and somebody mentioned, the power play time. He's not going to get time on the power play. So maybe I'm wrong for thinking he could be a 30-30 guy, right? Because power play goals would factor into that. I'll even say this. He could be a 25-30 guy for 55 points, right? And that would be new career highs. If I told you, hey, Farabee is going to be a 50 to 55 point guy or 50 to 60 point guy, are you good with that?
For what I feel of the player, yeah. I'm not over here trying to think that.
I'm not saying that's a negative thing, because he's going to, in a perfect world, he's going to be playing most likely. There's a chance that his numbers even come down this year if he's playing third line minutes and he's not getting power play time.
Well,
there's more of a chance that his numbers dip a little bit.
How would you feel?
That maybe we see more of what we saw towards the end of last year this season.
How would you
feel? He's a guy that I would like to improve.
I mean, for sure. I mean, absolutely. Can you, on top of the winger depth we already have, and even if we moved him in a deal, I would definitely like to see him improve. I mean, they gave him that contract for a reason. The talent is there. It's sustaining it. And what do they always say? Like they want to see you succeed and show you have talent. But at the same time, the next step after succeeding at the NHL level is sticking at the NHL level. Like, you don't just come in, like, look at Frost. Look at his journey to the NHL. Like, he showed in his first couple of games he had NHL talent. And then he played in the AHL for 2 years. Like, he had to prove he could stick at the NHL level. And then it's about being consistent. I think Farabee right now is in he's playing into, I need to be consistent. And it's more so throughout the entire season. I don't think that's unfair to say. If he were to have the exact same stats this year compared to last year, but he stretched it out over 7 months, I don't think half the fan base is upset with the guy. Except for they'll say, oh, well, he matched his stats last year. He didn't up it. But if instead of take last year, instead he has all career highs. Say he does that over the entire season and not just the 5 months and then fell off. I don't think the fan base is half as upset with the guy as we think they are.
Right. So because he set a standard, he showed you that he could play that good.
All you're saying is he hit career highs. That's all you're saying. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's because he did it in bulk and then fell off.
Because he showed you that he's capable of doing that.
Which tells me if he can figure it out, he can give you an extra. If say he added to, it tells me he can add to what he has. If he can stay at the level he was playing at for the last, we'll say 21 games of the season, that makes him close to a 70-point guy, which he'll have to play on the top 2 lines at least, and the power play for that. But that's, I'll take 60, 65, 60. I'll take that. I don't see it happening, but that, there's something there. There's something there. And I do think they have a plethora of talent at wing, which is ultimately why I was okay moving him or somebody of that nature.
Yeah.
So I'm not, am I making excuses? I'm just looking for an answer as to why what happened to him happened. And when I look at his track record and I look at the pandemic and his rookie season and how worthless not the 2 seasons ago were, can you come up with something better? Because I can't.
It just feels like a cop out for me, but if that's what we want to go with.
Maybe it is, but these guys are human at the end of the day. We may not like the answer, but it doesn't mean it's not the answer.
Yeah. So it's fine. If we want to, if that's what we want it to be, that's fine. But it's, for me, a professional athlete at 23, 24 years old, running out of gas in his 5th professional season.
But you make it sound like he was tired, like he couldn't breathe.
I'm just saying, if his body, if he hit a wall physically, to me, that's, I just can't accept that for some reason.
Jim, I got to bring it to you.
He's never going to be in better shape in his entire life.
He's 185 pounds.
That's what's on the paper, but I'm 192.
Okay. So I remember when I was at,
I'm smaller than him.
And I think it takes time to keep your speed and skill and put on proper muscle. And
yeah, dude, but they're all playing the same game though. He's not going against bodybuilders. He's going up against the same guys.
Yeah, but there's guys in the league that
they're all going through the same stuff.
What does that mean exactly? They're all, because there's guys, especially on defense. That
they're all experiencing the same thing. They're all going through the same season. He's not the only one going through this.
Yeah, but a lot of guys have ups and downs, peaks and valleys. He just had his valleys at the end of the year.
But I'm just saying that because that's why it sounds like a cop out for me. But he's not the only one that's going through this. This is not just a Joel Farabee. Everyone's going through the same thing.
If he was 28 years old and I was still pushing this narrative, I get that. But he's still a kid. He's still a kid. It's not a linear line progression. It's ups and downs. And he had career highs. We're talking about a guy who had career highs and fell off. Oh my God. Shadow. Come on. LeClair's a generational fucking talent. Are we seriously having the same conversation here? Oh my God. Luke Hughes did. Luke Hughes looked pretty tired to me. That whole team missed the playoffs. Come on. What are we doing here? The team that should have made the playoffs missed. Come on. What are you doing here? What else you got? Give me your next comment. Let's go.
But I get where he's coming from, though, right?
Jack Hughes is the number 1 overall pick. Luke Hughes is number 3 overall pick. Farabee was the third guy on a line that had Jack Hughes on it, and he went 14th overall to the Flyers. It's not the same. People develop at separate times. That's why guys go in the 3rd round and 10 years later become a decent player.
Yeah,
you keep saying being tired. I'm saying beat up.
Too. But I feel like we're talking about the same thing, though. In what way? How about fatigue? Is that a better word? Fatigue?
I guess whether it's he's physically tired or mentally tired, or I don't know, some kind of tired. It's his first season playing a full 82, where he was
The second season.
No, he did that. The season before did not matter. They
But
were
he played
out of it
82.
by January.
But he
there was
played 82 though.
Zero expectations.
I don't know what that means. What does that have to do with anything?
Nobody's looking. We're not talking about what he did the previous year because there's zero expectations.
But he played the 82 though.
What does it matter though? He had less goals in 2022, 2023 than he did in 2021. So we didn't shit on him last year for having 2 less goals than the year he had before. Where were we shitting on Farabee before? We weren't.
I don't know, but like, how do you play 82 and
yes,
he said it. Like he said it. He said what the problem was. The games got harder, is what he said.
Because they mattered. They all mattered. You lost Couturier. You lost Hart. You traded Walker. They leaned on him more, and he didn't have it. He didn't have it. And they lowered him in the lineup, which pissed them off, which I like hearing. But ultimately, the guy didn't have it. He was a 23-year-old kid playing for a playoff spot when the team had no business being in a playoff spot. And everything that made them so successful at the beginning of the year, they started losing. They started losing those pieces. Tell me I'm wrong, because they did.
I don't know, man. I just don't.
You're not saving me an answer. You're just saying I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to. I just can't agree with what you're saying, though.
But
like,
why?
you know how I feel on that already. Like, he came out and said when the going got tough, I didn't produce, is what he said.
He didn't. I'm not disagreeing with that. He did not. And
so
the whole team didn't. They went on a 10-game losing streak.
So because he didn't come out and say I hit a wall physically, let's cancel that out.
Because
let's assume he's
arguing that. Nobody's arguing that.
Let's assume he's being honest. Let's assume he's being honest.
He is being honest. It's what happened.
Well, let's assume he's being honest.
My thing is why. My thing is, why did it happen?
I don't know. You're saying it's because he was tired.
Why else? He just decided not to play? He said, I'm done. Fuck it. This season.
I don't know, but I'm just disagreeing with that is all I'm doing. I'm like, hey, if that's the reason, that's pretty shitty.
This is a valid point. It does pull a lot out of you. We've seen his death camps. And he's a young guy. He demands a lot from his players.
He's young.
Well, if Farabee didn't, Brink had his peaks and valleys. Nobody shits on him because he's 22. He was 22. Forrester, I think he's ultimately a better prospect than Farabee because his all-around game is better. So while he wasn't producing offensively, his defense was good.
Yeah.
So his advanced metrics were good. So you can get by with it. And plus, it was his rookie year. So you're not going to say anything about Forrester, but he picked it up later in the year. Tippett was great, but he got hurt. He missed chunks of that season. So, like, the guy who was there every game is taking a lot of heat right now, understandably so.
He's not. No one's even giving him heat, though.
I don't understand what you're arguing with me about. I just gave Forrester all the fucking credit in the world.
I'm not arguing with you, though.
No,
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying.
No, comment.
If the reason why he stopped producing last year was because he was tired. This is what I say when I'm angry.
$5 million, he needs to find. I get that. I get angry. You pay a guy, show up, but ultimately, at the end of the day, it don't work that way. We know that. I mean, guys get paid. You're going to sign the contract, but you are who you are ultimately. And I think if I had anybody out there, give me a reason why the guy has career highs in 5 of the 7 months of the season and it fell off a cliff. I'm offering an excuse. I'm offering a reason.
I'm telling you, he gave you the reason. He said it himself. The games got tougher.
What does that mean?
I don't know. He said it, dude. I don't know what that means. To me, it means he couldn't keep up.
For the first time in his career, when he was a major factor in the team's success, when the games mattered that late in the season, he didn't have it. The only other season where the games mattered that late in the season was his rookie year. Are you leaning on Joel Farabee and his rookie year? No, you're not, because he's a rookie. This is the first season where the going got tough. He was a major factor because Coots was cooked. Hart is gone. Walker is traded. Delorier's hurt. Like, the team's hurt. A lot of the players are hurt. And you're looking at a guy like Farabee who helps get, I'm not saying he was the factor, but he was a factor that got you there. And they're looking at him and he goes, I'm out. I got nothing. I'm dead. I'm tired. The only season in his career, this late into his season, he's expected to play and produce like he did in juniors, and he was tired.
Yeah.
That's it. I just think he was beat up.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that is the answer or that he can't get past that. I'm saying why out of the 7 months of the season, he was good, career highs, and then fell off a cliff. If I look at his track record, I look at his age, that's what I came up with. Beat that. Can you beat that? Besides, I don't know. I don't.
No,
think
I don't want to beat that because I think I think it's silly, to tell you the truth. I just like it's fine if you want to have that opinion, but I don't know.
So
I don't know
what's the
what do I have to
excuse?
beat that with?
Why else would he just stop being that good at hockey or to his talent level?
So we're gonna go back to this because he said the games got tougher.
I explained why the games got tougher. What do you think he meant?
I have no idea. To me,
Jay, come on! What is that?
Again, to me, it means they got too tough for him. He couldn't produce when the games got tough.
Jim, you cannot use the word in the definition. You can't do that. You can't. The games got tough. I think it means
when the games mattered. When the games mattered, Joel Farabee could not produce.
And why? Why is that?
To me, I wouldn't have chose that he was tired. I would have said he's not good enough.
So you think he was good enough for 5 months and then said, no, I'm no longer good enough. I lost my talent.
Maybe when the season was easier, or I don't know.
When was it easy, though? It was never easy.
Hey, he said it, not me.
Because
these are his words.
Tougher to me means you hit the grind. Have you ever heard of the grind? Certain players, they hit the grind. It gets tough to play that good, that
this is
long.
What I assume he meant.
That's called the grind. That's called the grind. I think that's what it meant.
When playoff time came around, Joel Farabee said, "Wow, this is hard." That's the impression that I got.
But
that's what he said. He literally said, and I couldn't believe that he said it.
Look, was I happy with what he said? No. Ultimately, I think you should just take responsibility for what you did and move forward. But as somebody who analyzes and watches the games, just like you, I'm not saying obviously you do. And I'm looking at his stats and all the data I have on Farabee and why he suddenly, out of nowhere, just fell off. It's not like a new team entered the league that was so big and bad and just smoked them. I think the grind got to him. He was moved up the lineup.
To think that. You're allowed to have that opinion.
He was moved up the lineup because of everybody behind him was younger, outside of Konechny and whoever. Other guys were hurt, and he didn't get hurt. He stayed in the game. And it became a point where this team legitimately should make the playoffs. They are a playoff team. They didn't give them any help at the deadline, which was the right move on Briere's part. So they had to make do with what they had. And when the grind really got going, which is a real thing, this is always talked about, the grind, he could not hold up. And I think that's a youth thing. That's all I think that is. I don't think this is who he is till the day he retires. I think that's a youth thing. And hopefully next season, the year after that, maybe he can work out of that now that he's played a full season. But when I look at why he was career highs and then completely fell off, why? That I have not gotten a legitimate response out of I don't know. And I think it's a grind. They always talk about how you have to think that. Every single sport, they talk about the grind. You have to get used to the grind.
Yeah, and you're allowed to have these opinions.
But you're not giving me a dissenting opinion. You're just saying, I don't know, but you're wrong.
Because
where's the counterpoint?
I mean, what do you want me to say? Like, do you need to be wrong? Like, you're allowed to have that opinion. I don't have to agree with it.
I think you're being unfair. Being unfair. He's 23 years old last year. That's young as fuck. That's young. There's
he had a great
man in this league.
Wait a minute.
If he was horrible all last year, we're not even having this conversation.
The thing here, when the games get tougher, if a guy doesn't show up, it's because he's young.
If he's young, yeah, probably. Yeah, I would think so.
Come on, man.
Well, what? Of course, if you're that young and you suddenly forget how to play hockey and aren't as good, and that's being dramatic. But what else is the reason?
Come on.
What's the reason?
He said it's because games got harder. That's what he said.
What do you think he meant by that? Legitimately.
That the games were too tough for him.
No, you can't use the thesaurus word. And what does that actually mean?
That means what it means.
You- you-
When the games
What the fuck? What does that mean? It means what it means?
when the
What is
games
that?
got tougher, Joel Farabee could not keep up.
Dude,
Yep.
Okay. He meant when the going got tough, when they were in a playoff race because they were losing their standing and people were getting hurt and he had to step up. He didn't have it in him to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, this isn't unheard of. He's
Flat out.
23 years old. This isn't unheard of at all.
I don't know.
I
don't agree.
Watching the Flyers. I think we're so used to watching the Flyers and seeing slop that like it just doesn't. We're just used to it. Like
I think asking for effort for 82 games.
That's like saying, why didn't Crosby
thing.
win a cup in his rookie season? He's the greatest ever. Why didn't he win a cup in his rookie season? Because he's young. He's young. He didn't develop into the guy he is. It took him. He got drafted in 2005. He didn't win a cup until 2009. Why didn't he win a cup in 2005? Because he was fucking young. Are we seriously having this? Why didn't Bernard take Chicago to the cup or the playoffs at least for that matter? Because he's fucking young. Guess what? I bet you he doesn't get his jaw broken next year. You know why? Because you learn shit. You learn. It's a learning. It's not just skill. You got to learn to play in this league. And he's finally playing meaningful games since his rookie season when he was a third-line guy.
Yeah. Well, this is why he's going to be my guy to watch for next year. I think he could have another breakout year.
Damn right. And if he doesn't, Jesus Christ, am I going to hear it?
I don't think. I mean, I want him to. I think he has the potential.
So what is a breakout year for him, for you?
So I don't even know if you can consider it breakout anymore, but I think he has the ability to top his season highs from this past season if he plays all 7 months. You know, when the games get harder, Joel Farabee can find the extra gear to maybe score some points.
That I liked. Jim, I think you just answered my question perfectly. A better season than last year or a step up is finding that extra gear. I think that's the answer to the question. Even if he only had one more point than last year, if he did it the full year, to me, that's big.
Well, it's possible that happens. Like he's not going to, I don't know if he gets the same playing time.
I was just going to say that too. You're absolutely right.
So it is possible that he does exactly what you just said. And that would be fine as long as the effort is there for all 82 games.
Totally agree. And that's why I'm not going to put a point value on it unless he falls off a cliff. But the consistency is what we want to see through the full year, because you're going to need that. You can't have somebody give you everything he has in the first 2/3 of the season and then disappear. Because I agree with you. You can't have that. You can't have that. Those are all signs of a young player, but you can't have that. You can't have that happen.
I don't know, man. We disagree on the young player thing, but
I don't think Farabee is Michkov. That's why I think he's more susceptible to something like this. And it's not unheard of. Like, this happens.
I don't know, man. I think either we're forgetting just how drastic the fall off was, or
No. It was drastic. The fact that he had career highs in goals, points, assists, and we're all like, trade the guy. You're right there. It was bad. Yeah. But I think the guy just pushed it until he just didn't. And it's seriously frustrating. Like, you have nothing left at all. Like, really? Like, come on. It's not like you scored. It's not like you scored 50 and 50. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you did that. But so I'll give you that. But I just come back to these. It's not linear. Like, these guys, everybody grows differently. Everybody does. And I think this is just part of the growth. This is his first time in a true top 6 role for the majority of the season. And I don't think anybody had this team picked to do anything. And they did something. And he's like, this is the first season where I was a guy leaned on when the games got tough, AKA we were in a playoff push. And I didn't have it. And maybe Jim, to your credit, maybe he faltered a little bit. Maybe the lights got a little too bright. Not crazy. Maybe he's gripping the stick too hard. I haven't scored a couple of points in so many games, and these games, all of a sudden, they really matter. Teams are looking at us. They're talking about us. We're in a playoff position. We're slipping out of it. I need to step up. I can't. All of this matters. It's just not like, I'm tired, I'm out. I think it's a mental thing, a physical thing. It's a lot. It's got to be a lot to be a fucking NHL player, especially in Philadelphia. So I think there's a lot. Nothing is black and white. Let's be straight. Nothing's black and white. I'm giving pieces to a puzzle, to a conundrum that we can't answer. Because it really, can you think of another player who had a similar season like that, where you get career highs and then disappear when it matters most? Because that's what he did. I'll give you that.
Yeah, not last year on the Flyers, anyways.
I can't think of much at any sport where a guy fell off like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Drysdale, Farabee, two guys. If they can get it together next year, it would be a huge piece of the puzzle. A guy that I want to talk about next show is Tyson Forster, because I know we're all expecting a huge jump as far as points, but like a sophomore slump, that's a thing, and it's a real thing. A lot of players, we're talking about young players who have good rookie seasons, they don't always follow up with the best sophomore season. So I want to talk Forster next show because we're an hour and 40 minutes into this one. Good Farabee discussion. But why don't we wrap this one up, and whatever topics we have left here, I'm sure we could save. Yeah, so all we had was Forster, and Forster, Torts, and are the Flyers a playoff team? We have one more week of scratching around for topics until the week after is the rookie game. So we won't have to really be, even though this was a fun episode.
Be honest with you, Jim, I think the Forrester discussion and are the Flyers a playoff team, I'm sure Farabee would get brought back up. I think that's going to be a good discussion in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're 44 days away from Flyers hockey, true Flyers hockey.
Don't
and
tell
about
Farabee.
what, 2? yeah, you better sleep from now till then.
I'm just kidding.
No, hey, it is what it is, man. It's up to him to figure it out, to prove Jim wrong. So.
Yeah. Well, I hope he does. I hope I would love to see him get 60 points. Like that's a little bit of where I'm coming from is it's like disappointment, right? Because he's got it all in him. Like, just do it the whole year, man. So hopefully we see that. That's what I want to see. That's why I picked him as my guy.
I just want to say, guys, great comment. Shadow, thanks for getting in there. Give me a hard time, you little shit. No, seriously, I appreciate it. Vegas, Dave Harris, you guys were awesome in the comments. If I missed anybody, I apologize. I can't scroll back up. It was good stuff. Definitely went almost a 2-hour episode at the end of August. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, hopefully a good Labor Day listen for you guys. Make sure, if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube already, our goal this year will be to hit 1,000 subscribers. We are at exactly 600. Actually, 1,000 seems kind of light. So help us hit. Maybe you guys can help us hit 1,000 by the time the season starts in October. But we need to get on that now. So if you guys could help us get to 1,000 subscribers by October, that'd be awesome. There's a lot of people watching, I think, on Twitter, on YouTube. We appreciate you guys. So one last time, give us a subscribe, follow, listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Make sure to set up alerts for weekly shows and favorite. I'm sorry, we don't have that anymore. Check out hwhockey.net. We do have a website, so make sure you guys check that out. You can find all of our past episodes and the occasional article. So for Jack, I'm Jim. Have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.